Hi, I'm Mark Tyrrell of Uncommon Knowledge and hypnosisdownloads.com, and welcome to Dealing with Moody People, 7 tips to help you survive the ebbs, flows and tsunamis of other people's moods. So, moodiness, to a certain point, is natural. We can all be out of sorts, fed up, hormonal, down, up, or just good old-fashioned cranky. And some people even profess to being attracted to moody types. Unpredictability can be interesting, but if you're over 30 chronologically or emotionally, then moodiness in others has probably lost its appeal for you. What is attractive is substance in a person, and variation, playfulness, intelligence, humour, artiness, talents, individuality and diverse interests. Multifacetedness is, to me at least, more appealing than constant moodiness, which quickly becomes wearisome. Those who romanticize moodiness probably don't have to live with it. But hold on an unsympathetic anti-zeitgeist moment here. Being moody isn't something those afflicted with moods choose, so stop abusing the mark. Okay, relax already. Let me justify my ideas, blimey. Making allowances for moodiness. So the teenage years are a classic time for moodiness. Because of youth and wayward hormones, the teen may not have learned to manage their emotions. And to be fair, the prefrontal lobes of the brain, which in part govern self-control and mood management, don't stop physically developing until around the age of 21, at which time the young adult, we're hoping, becomes better at bigger picture thinking and impulse control. See reference 1. So a moody person may be going through a difficult stage in their lives. They may be exhausted or ill or chronically worried or lacking what they need in terms of love, sleep, challenge or security. And such people need to be listened to and supported and cared for, and certainly clinical depression and other mood disorders will entail mood extremes and fluctuations. But there's another type of moodiness, that of the bully, who will use their moods to intimidate and manipulate. It's this aspect of moodiness that I want to look at here. So moodiness as mean machine. People may be moody because their life, the way they are leading it, isn't meeting their emotional needs adequately, producing as a side effect increased moodiness. Perhaps they're not usually moody, so it's obvious they need help, although whatever the cause of moodiness, you may still have to protect yourself and deal with it. Sometimes we just have to, sit with the person. The moody manipulator, on the other hand, is different. If you observe them, they're more likely to be overly self-referential, generally. Other people figure in as far as they can be used to meet the needs of the moody person. So they may have learned, whether that learning is registered consciously or not, that emotional incontinence gives them benefits. Grabbing the spotlight. So habitually, moody people routinely prioritize their own feelings over and above your or my feelings. If, heaven forbid, we're ever moody, they may not even be able to stand it. And really criticize us for having our own ebbs and flows. Others find themselves worrying about what so-and-so will think. So people tiptoe around these people. This emotional non-sharing or unconcern with how you feel and over-concern with how they feel is a kind of greed, no matter how we dress it up. Just being understanding or just listening may help the moody person if their mood isn't unconsciously aligned with controlling other people. But if they're gaining something, attention, influence, power, status, from being moody, then they won't stop until either moodiness no longer confers these benefits, or they start to meet these needs in more mature ways. So I'm a firm believer that moods, like holiday pictures, should not be inflicted on one work colleague by another or by professional person onto customers. Part of professionalism is mood management. So I realize all this may sound judgmental, but I do have judgment and I can't help but use it sometimes. So how can you best manage the fallout from other people's moodiness? So number 1, consider your options. If you know someone who always seems to have to dictate the emotional atmosphere, then be clear they are a dictator. Another term for dictator is bully. If your empathy, patience, advice, and general attention giving doesn't seem to help them, and you're suffering because of their moodiness, and they don't seem to care about that, then consider carefully, do you need this person in your life? A friendship is reciprocal. It should be give and take, but not in the sense that you're always giving and they're always taking. If you have to have them in your life for whatever reason, perhaps you work with them, then consider the following. Number 2, don't play their games. If we're not careful, the moody person can start to get preferential treatment because, well, it just seems easier to smooth things over for them. However, short-term ease equals long-term hassle. Remember, people won't change if they're being rewarded for not changing. Decide now not to be unduly influenced. Stop tiptoeing around this person or making special allowances. One woman who came for therapy would lament that a co-worker would tell drawn-out stories about her weekend when she was in the mood, but would often look bored or miserable when other people began to talk about what they'd been doing. So my client was finding that she had stopped talking about herself at all to this woman and had basically become rent an ear for the woman. I said that I was about to suggest something that might sound counterintuitive to this client, but there was method in my madness, which brings me on to tip number 3. Don't reward moodiness. So I said to this client, next Monday, after she's told you all about her weekend in endless detail, I want you to talk about yours, no matter how she seems when you speak. So my client did this for several weeks, and at first the other woman sighed and looked bored and irritated. At one point I even thought she was going to collapse onto the floor, my client said, but eventually all that stopped and she even started to listen respectfully. Being moody can confer benefits and incentives, but only if those around the moody person let it. Reflect for a moment, just what do you suspect is the person getting from acting out? All behavior is purposeful in some way. Is it a bigger share of the attention pie? Is it getting out of work? Is it simply control of others for its own sake? One woman told me how her middle-aged mother would always become suddenly down in mood whenever her daughter was going away. The daughter would then take her mother with her, even on her honeymoon. Okay. By not letting this woman's moodiness influence her at work, my client blocked the moodiness from working, at least in that context, and made it a redundant force. Tip number 4, just ask. Some moody people may use anger, either consciously or unconsciously, as a way of influencing you. Or they may clam up and not speak, or suddenly start speaking very negatively about something dear to you. Okay. One day they're good cop, the next day they're bad cop, shifting sands, and you're wondering where you stand. Okay. Now we all fluctuate a bit, but these moody types may do it minute to minute. And if you peek at what's happening rather than just reflect on how you feel about what's happening, the moods will be purposeful as regards influencing other people. But if ever, heaven forbid, you display moodiness, they may be surprised or even outraged or tell you how immature you're being because you've trespassed onto their behavioral territory. Not mentioning someone's mood can be paramount to being sucked into their games. Who says it's an unwritten rule that their behavior go unchallenged? Sometimes actually challenging someone's mood may get them to observe what they themselves are doing. So we might say things like, I've noticed you keep snapping. Is something upsetting you? Or are you finding something hard to deal with? I think you look bored. Did you think what I was saying is tedious? I think your irritability is spoiling the morale in the office this morning. So these kinds of statements can firstly be disarming if someone truly does use their moodiness as a means of social coercion. Pave the way for letting you try to help them if they genuinely do have problems. Even if they say, "What do you mean?" and deny it, now their moodiness is becoming an issue in itself. It's out in the open rather than just a device to get what they want. Tip number 5. Practical sympathy. I'm sort of cursed with an empathetic nature and have to consciously fight against it sometimes. Why? because of the principle of cruelty in the pursuit of genuine kindness. Some people are genuinely distressed, depressed, psychotic even, but we still need to separate that out from how they behave towards other people. If we let people get away with anything because they're distressed, going through a divorce or clinically depressed even, then we're making it too tempting for them to start unconsciously using their distress label as a means to an end. Okay, and that might sound a bit hard. I used to work with severely psychotic patients, and one day I accompanied a patient called Winnie, a diagnosed schizophrenic, off campus out of the hospital into town. And I'd never challenged her outbursts or rudeness before, and I don't think anyone had. And she was clinically psychotic, and she couldn't help it. Okay, but I wasn't so sure. On this occasion, amidst her cursing at me and bemused passers-by, I finally turned to Winnie and said, "Stop cursing at people and stop being rude to me. I know you're better than that." And to my shock, she looked shocked. Then perfectly rationally, she apologized and started to be much pleasanter toward me and other people. So we don't help anyone, even a psychotic person, by making allowances all the time for everything they do because they've been labeled in some way. There are plenty of depressed people who don't scream at other people, and many psychotics are pleasant and courteous. Sometimes we act with more genuine sympathy when we set boundaries. Making too many allowances is akin to discrimination. Tip number 6, don't take it personally. It's them, not you. Someone said to me, "My boss is like the weather," and I said, "What, wet and windy?" And they said, "No, I mean always changing. One day he's Mr. Charming, the next he's slamming doors and not speaking to anyone. And I'm racking my brains figuring out what I've done wrong." And we value niceness from a moody person more because of its scarcity. We always value something if it's an unreliable thing that we're getting. But no one needs to be grovelling grateful for crumbs of decency on the rare occasions they appear. In the UK, if we let the weather affect us too much, we don't do anything. And who takes personal responsibility for the weather? Even if you had done something wrong, that would be a separate issue from them blowing a tantrum and behaving like that. It's still a separate issue. Moody people may work through implication. It's implied that somehow you've done something wrong. Okay, kind of gaslighting in a way. And because the guilt button is quite large on many people, even the implication that they might have done something wrong can knock confidence and unsettle people. By putting tip number 4 into practice, you short-circuit implication strategies. Which brings us to tip 7. Take time out for yourself. If you live or work with an exceptionally moody person, then make sure you get time out to relax, have fun, rest, and recuperate away from them if necessary. Sometimes we need to recover from people. Whatever the cause of moodiness, it's draining for others, and you may be a significant other to this person. Having to be the rational adult all the time can be exhausting, and if you're not careful, you can start to feel as moody as they are. And I stress again, even the most depressed person and even the most severely psychotic people I've known can still know that other people have needs as well. So lastly, remember that everything changes. The moodiness of adolescence can progress to the serenity that comes from self-mastery. And if you're the moody one, remember what feels permanent at the time never is. So I hope you found that useful, and if you did, please hit like and subscribe. And if you want to hear when my next video is published, hit the notification bell below. I'm Mark Tyrrell of Uncommon Knowledge and hypnosisdownloads.com, and if you'd like to try some of my personal development products, head over to hypnosisdownloads.com and take a look around. And thanks for watching.